Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm a professional actor living in Lethbridge, a creative and resilient little city nestled into the coulees amidst the vast prairie landscape of Alberta. This city, its people and views, have stolen my heart over the years, much like the works and words of a certain poet, William Shakespeare. Welcome to Thy Bard Shakesonnet, where I sit down with a handful of local Lethbridge artists like myself to both shake down and shake up a handful of Shakespeare's age-old sonnets. Each artist and I will discuss a single sonnet over the course of an episode before creating our very own in the next.
One, two, 3, 4. Shakesonnet.
In this episode, we are shaking down none other than William Shakespeare's 80th sonnet. But we needn't do so alone. Oh no. Please join me in welcoming Ahona Sanya. Born in India, Ahona emigrated to Calgary with her immediate family when she was only 9 years old. She's in the last year of her BFA in drama performance at the University of Lethbridge. She's trained in dance for over a decade and earned her first Dan Taekwondo black belt by the age of 17. She's an actor at heart, but enjoys all facets of theater and storytelling. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 7 territory, which is also home to Métis Nation Region 3. Let's take a look at Sonnet 80 in its entirety. Oh, how I faint when I of you do write, knowing a better spirit doth use your name, and in the praise thereof spends all his might, to make me tongue-tied, speaking of your fame. But since your worth, wide as the ocean is, the humble as the proudest sail doth bear, my saucy bark, inferior far to his, on your broad main doth wilfully appear. Your shallowest help will hold me up afloat, whilst he upon your soundless deep doth ride, or, being wrecked, I am a worthless boat, he of tall building and of goodly pride. Then if he thrive and I be cast away, the worst was this, my love was my decay. What on earth do you think that this sonnet is all about, overall?
I think it's about Shakespeare, or like this man who has a lot of love and admiration towards a person, but also feels inferior to himself and compares himself to other suitors who may be more of a fit for this person. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like insecurity and doubt in the sonnet, but I think that's a little sweet because he's still like expressing his feelings through his words, even though he feels like his words aren't really adequate for that.
Are there any like specific things that make you think that in the sonnets? Like any of the specific lines or phrases?
I think referring to himself as like a worthless boat shows a lot of like doubt within himself, and then comparing this other person to like a tall building and having good pride.
Yeah, it's kind of like an objectification of like himself.
Yeah.
Like it's like, let's take a look at the first stanza and just see what stands out to us specifically in there. Oh, how I faint when I of you do write, knowing a better spirit doth use your name, and in the praise thereof spends all his might, to make me tongue-tied, speaking of your fame. So what stands out to you in this first stanza, lines 1 through 4?
I immediately get imagery of like a lion. When I see the word faint, I think not only just like someone passing out, but I also think of like faint writing, where it's like barely there, or
Right.
like barely visible.
What color does this stanza make you think of?
It makes me think of like an orangey color, something warm, something glowy. I think also that like lion imagery makes me think of the safari and how like this also is pretty early in the sonnet where he's not getting into his doubts very much and it still feels hopeful in a sense.
Orange it is. Let's dive into stanza 2, lines 4 through 8.
5 through 8.
5 through 8. But since your worth, wide as the ocean is, the humble as the proudest sail doth bear, my saucy bark, inferior far to his, on your broad main doth wilfully appear. Okay.
Saucy bark.
So, yeah, what does this stanza make you think of? What stands out to you in it?
Immediately what stands out is the contrast between humble and proudest and how they're very different, but they're still sailing on the same sea.
Ooh, I have a thought there. We're all in the same storm, but different boats. And I just feel like that kind of connected there.
It's beautiful. I haven't
Yeah.
heard that.
What else stood out to you?
Saucy bark.
Yep.
Saucy bark.
Yep.
I understand what he means by bark, like wood, boat. I understand. I don't know what's saucy, though,
Right.
about this bark.
Saucy bark is thought to be a reference to an impudent, foolhardy boat. Yeah, and it makes me think of like Captain Jack Sparrow. Makes me think of like the
Yeah.
Black Pearl and then like a little dinghy that he's like
Yeah.
stuck on.
You saying that makes me think of like the music in that movie and like how adventurous it is. Like on line 8, it feels like on your broad main doth willfully appear. That feels like an epic score line. That's when it starts and we go on our adventure.
Right. And what color does this stanza make you think of?
It makes me feel like it's a light blue, the way this stanza is. It makes me think of calm waters, like the calm before the storm.
Calm before the storm. Yeah.
And it still feels hopeful, not as hopeful as the first stanza, but
Light blue it is. Great. Let's take a look at stanza 3, lines 9 through 12. Your shallowest help will hold me up afloat, whilst he upon your soundless deep doth ride, or, being wrecked, I am a worthless boat, he of tall building and of goodly pride. What does this third stanza make you think of? What stands out to you in it?
I think your shallowest help will hold me up afloat makes me think of like the Dead Sea and how like all that salt in the water can like keep anything floating.
Did you know? The Dead Sea is only the 4th saltiest body of water in the world. Even still, it has almost 10 times as much salt as ordinary seawater.
Which also makes me think that in line 10, while this other person goes deep into the ocean, you have more of a chance of like getting lost that way. While when you start shallow and go deeper, it's like getting to know someone and
Right.
like easing yourself into it. It's like the phrase actions speak louder than words. Shakespeare is having, or this person
Yeah.
is having a difficult time like vocally showing their admiration towards the person they're talking to, but is still like doing what he's doing. Like he's still sailing the ocean. He's
Yeah.
still trying. And I think, I don't know, that's sweet.
Does anything else stand out to you in this third stanza?
With lines 11 and 12, the worthless boat and then the tall building boat, it gives me like imagery of sharks circling little fish like their prey about to eat. That like difference in size and difference in like power.
Right. And what color does this third stanza make you think of?
This makes me think of like a darker blue than the one before. It just feels very doubtful and like very insecure and as if he's like closing in on himself.
Dark blue it is. Let's take a look at the rhyming couplet at the end here, lines 13 and 14. Then if he thrive and I be cast away, the worst was this, my love was my decay. Lots of imagery in there. What does this little rhyming couplet at the end make you think of? What stands out to you in it?
Have you seen the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks?
I certainly have, yes.
It makes me think of that. No reason other than the title.
Yeah, yeah.
And words like thrive and decay take me out of like an ocean setting and more with like plants. And decay when I hear decay, I think of like a wilted rose.
Did you know the provincial flower of Alberta is the wild rose, a small deciduous shrub known for its beautiful pink blooms and thick, thorny stems?
It also makes me think of how there's so much like litter in the ocean and like garbage, and like eventually all of that will be decay as well.
And what color does this rhyming couplet at the end make you think of?
It makes me think of a dark green, kind of. I think because words like thrive and decay make me think more like plants. It's also dark because my love was my decay. That is such a heartbreaking thing to say.
It certainly is, so dark green it shall be. Stay tuned for the next episode where Daniel and Ahona shake up Sonnet 80.
One, two, 3, 4.